Okay, well, today we're sitting with one of Sonoma County's most respected and sought after real estate professionals, Grace Lucero. With over 25 years of experience, Grace is more than just a top producing agent. She's a licensed general contractor and founder of the Lucero Group, and a fierce advocate for her clients. From her early days in Los Angeles, working with Hollywood insiders, to becoming a trusted name in wine country real estate, Grace has built a career rooted in integrity, grit, and deep market knowledge. She's helped transform over 160 homes, consistently ranked in the top 1% of agents, and leads with a passion not just for real estate, but for people, animals, and her community. All true. Whether you're an aspiring agent, a seasoned investor, or just someone who loves a great success story, you're going to want to hear what she has to say. So let's get to it. All right. So welcome, Grace. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So, Grace, you had such an impressive journey in real estate. And for those meeting you for the first time, how would you describe what you do and why you do it?
What I do and why? I want to be the go-to real estate agent to help them decide what's best for them. It may be that it's not selling their property is not best for them. But to come to me, like we all have our attorneys and our, financial advisors, but I want to be the real estate advisor. So that's what I strive to do and have, worked into that.
Yeah. And what drew you to real estate in the first place?
It's interesting. So I was a home inspector. After I got my general contractor's license, I worked for a big general contractor for many years. And I decided I wanted to do home inspections for buyers. And so I joined a company and I was an independent, and I started doing home inspections in LA area. And I was doing this home inspection. These two guys had bought a house, and they were selling it. I said to the guy, I said, he just bought this? And he goes, yeah, we bought it. We put about 60,000. This was 24 years ago, 25. And we're turning it. We're flipping it. And I thought to myself, I can do that. So I immediately contacted a real estate agent. Her name's Jeeb O'Reilly. She still is an agent in LA. And I contacted her because out of all of the agents that I had done home inspections for, she stood out to me as being present for her clients.
Nice.
While I was doing my home inspection, she would sit there and go through disclosures and be there or measure rooms or do whatever they wanted to do instead of being on the phone talking to other clients. And so I called her up and said, hey, I think I want to buy my first home. I want to flip it. And so I did. And Dermot Maroney's house before he made My Best Friend's Wedding, and he was moving up, or he just filmed My Best Friend's Wedding, and he was moving out of this little bungalow in this really great area of LA. And so I bought his house and I fixed it up and flipped it.
Nice.
After I was done with that, Jeeb O'Reilly said to me, why don't you get your real estate license and work with me? And so I did. And that's how I started. And
you wanted to do mostly spec houses, but it's turned into a much bigger career for you.
Yes, because what I didn't know is she was connected to Universal Studios. And so we were working with movie stars, selling houses to,
How did that shape your style, working from LA and then coming to wine country and becoming an agent?
Well, working with the movie stars, I treated them just like I treated anybody else. And I think that because I did that, they appreciated that and got along well. I worked on Renee Zellweger's house for over a year because I also had a construction company. And so we would sell them, and we would oftentimes do the remodel for them as well. I transitioned to Sonoma County to do a big development above Parkland Farms, which is here in Healdsburg. Some investors and myself own 98 acres of land up above Parkland Farms, and we were developing 23 high-end homes up there, and I was the developer.
Wow. So did you sell those later?
What happened is Sonoma County Open Space bought it from us to prevent us from building, and it's currently hiking trails up there now.
Well, that's nice.
It was nice
I
because
know you're an avid hiker.
it was nice because also at that time I could see the downturn in the market coming, so it was actually perfect timing. There was
What year was it?
2000,
Yeah,
yeah, around that time. Yeah,
'cause that's when we hit
yeah.
a pretty rough patch there.
It was a little before
So
that.
you stayed in Sonoma County.
Yep.
And then you just started selling on your own.
Yeah, just opened up an office in Cloverdale. I worked with a gentleman who we were selling new homes, and I was selling resale homes, and partnered up there for a while, and then eventually moved in and started working with you.
Yeah, that's true. That was probably 2014, I think.
Yeah.
I figured out this morning. Yeah.
Correct.
So 2014, you came to Vanguard, and you've just become a rock star. I mean, you really, really had a growth spurt. I mean, a growth spurt. A growth spurt.
Yeah.
So, and you were an agent on your own at the time, not a team. And so
Correct.
you formed the Lucero group.
Correct.
And how did that come about? Because everyone wants to know how to do groups and teams and all of that. How did that come out?
Well, it's funny because, we all listen, we read books, we listen to different speakers, and, different speakers kind of resonate with you certain points. And I was listening to Darren Hardy, who owns Success Magazine. Well, he was a real estate agent in his early 20s in San Francisco. And one of the things he said was, you need to get to a place where you're only doing 3 things: pitching listings, negotiating contracts, and prospecting.
Yeah.
And the other things you
Hear
have,
that last one.
well, prospecting is one. It should be number one.
That's okay.
Pitching listings and negotiating contracts. And he says, it took me a while to get to that point, but that's where I got to. Well, that's what I wanted to strive to do. And so eventually got to where I'm basically doing just those 3 things.
Gosh, I love that. I mean, that is really the truth, because everything else is a time suck. And when you're new, you can't really afford to
Right.
do. You have to do it all.
Correct.
So how long did it take you to get to the point where you could have a team? And did you start with one person?
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I think the most important is finding an assistant that should be your first move. And I have Lene LaForge, she's been with me for over 10 years now. And she's loyal, she works hard, and she's very detail, and which is something that I wanted in my team.
And that's nice. Yeah. And then from there, your volume started to grow. About what point did you think that you started needing an assistant? Like in dollar volume?
Dollar volume.
10 million, 20 million, 40?
I think 17 million. When I came over to Vanguard, I was doing about 17 million. And at that point, is when I started feeling like, okay, I need to have an assistant. And then it just every year went higher and higher.
Yeah, you started to really grow.
Yes.
And you've had some great successful years. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And then so you added into your team. I think you have how many members now? 4?
I have 2 licensed agents. Lene is now currently licensed as well, but I have 2 other licensed agents.
And what do they do?
They both will work on listings and buyers with me. So the business that I do or come from leads that I bring in. So my prospecting efforts or my referral efforts. When I do that, I then appoint one of them to assist me on those properties or buyers and pay them a percentage to do that as well.
So there's 4 of you on the team.
Correct.
And then they do transaction coordinating, and they do.
Well, we have a TC.
So
We have an outside TC that works for Vanguard. So she does all that. These guys
They're not bogged down with that either.
No, but
They'll schedule appointments for you, or do this, schedule the photo shoots and.
all the inspections and all that. I always tell my team I deliver the good news and I deliver the bad news.
Right.
They never are in that situation where they have to do that.
Let's talk about the prospecting, because everyone loves that one.
Yeah.
I mean, or not. So we know that. But what are your favorite prospecting activities?
One thing I've done, I moved here from LA knowing my mother and my sister. And so I didn't know anybody else. So I had to start. And there's a gentleman, Gary Keller, who wrote The Millionaire Real Estate. And he interviewed agents from all over the United States. And from that, he had numbers. And one of the sets is you touch your farm and you touch your database. And a certain amount of touches in the farm produces a certain amount of closes, and a certain amount of touches of your database also produces a certain amount of closes. So I did that consistently and measured how, because I was, as you know, I was trying to help other agents in this company get off their feet. And I always say, start with these two things. And when you get past those two things, come back to me and we'll move on to the next two things. So I literally took my business from 17 million a year to, consistently 40, 50, 60 million a year doing that. The other thing that I always say to people, agents, you have to do a good job because you want the referrals, right? I say to my team all the time, if everybody in the transaction isn't benefiting, there's something wrong. It's not a good transaction. Sellers, buyers, listing agents, buyers agents. It has to be a good situation for everybody. And I believe that's true. And building relationships with other agents, I think is hugely important. And, and I think that's probably been one of the, keys to my success. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's been a wonderful career, and it's been wonderful to watch you grow so much, too. Yeah, it really has. I'm wondering, what do you think separates a good agent from a great agent? I like that question. I just think it would be, a lot of people are good, but they never really reach 50 million, or 60 million. And I think that's a great agent that can do that. It's not everyone.
I agree.
And not everyone has that goal.
Or
to be fair, that's fair.
Yeah.
But what do you think separates the good from the great?
I think always being grateful for your business and appreciating your clients and your agents that you work with and the people on your team, and enjoying what you're doing and knowing when to walk away from a situation, hand it back to that person, and continue with the people who need your attention and want your attention. I think we get bogged down a lot of times with people that are difficult, and difficult's okay, but not working with you on we all have the same goal. And when you have clients that are pushing against you constantly, sometimes that means it's not a good fit, and it's okay to let it go and move on to something else. And I think that's hugely important. I also think, my biggest thing is I protect my clients. That's our job as agents, is to protect our clients. And what that means is we keep them in contract, we keep them focused on the end result, and we bring them back to
liability.
Yeah.
Protect them from liability.
Correct. And from themselves, really, a lot of times.
Well,
because
it's very stressful.
It is.
What we're doing in our work, and the people that are going through transactions can be the most level-headed, as we know.
Correct.
And suddenly become, all lucid to him.
You spray it, right?
Because
you're like, what happened?
Yeah, I didn't see that part of you before.
Right,
it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a great career for you, and if for many of us, I didn't touch on your renovations, but 160 renovations is no small number.
No.
And so, do you still do that? Are you still?
Haven't done as much in the last probably 10 years, maybe 2 in 10 years, but. No, focusing on
just listing and selling.
Yeah, because it's interesting when you work in a small community. If you have a client that's interested in a fixer that you might be interested in, you're not going to step in and take that from that. You help that client take that before yourself, and I think that's important. For me, it is. To operate that way.
And how often do you meet with your team? Do you have structured meetings, or are you structured? Do you often go to work every day?
Yeah.
Tell us just a little bit about
my day. Okay, up early, 5:30. I spend time writing down what I'm grateful for, so I don't lose, sight of that. In all aspects of my life, I exercise. I think that's really important. And I do it in the morning, because if you don't, as a real estate agent, as we know, it gets lost. And I get in the, I have regular meetings in the mornings, usually with my team. And, for sure, we have a set meeting every Tuesday at noon, where we can all sit around and talk about situations or,
Nice.
and they're still learning. So it's, it's good for me to help mentor them to learn more and more as well. And I enjoy that part of it.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I know. And we're grateful for you for stepping in when we needed you. We needed a manager very quickly one day, and you were there for us, and we thank you for that at Vanguard Properties. So I know that you're deeply committed and involved in the local community. And you mentioned a couple of times, which I was a little surprised that the first thing that came out was gratitude, which I'm not surprised, but I find it thematic with most of my interviewees that, when I ask the questions, the gratitude and the involvement in community is really big. Tell me, I know you're very involved with local organizations, with homeless people, not homeless, but I think you're on the board of Hillsburg
For
Housing.
Hillsburg Forever.
Hillsburg Forever. That's
Hillsburg Forever, which is an organization that raises money to help nonprofits get started. I'm also on the food pantry board, which is obvious. It's for supplying food to not only homeless, but the elderly community as well.
and animals.
And I'm a huge, everybody calls me when there's an animal hurt or loose or, whatever. I was on the board of the Humane Society for many years. And I am a huge animal person.
Yeah, yeah. And so how does that, what does that give back to you, and how does it work into your career?
Well, as agents, we are on properties sometimes where we see issues with animals. And I've gotten involved many times with rescuing animals, horses to dogs, where people die and they, don't have anybody take the animals. So, I think it's, I like to find homes for animals and people, and I think it's something I enjoy.
Yeah, it's always been a great passion of yours. I've known that. Yeah. And it's a wonderful thing to give back to communities that we live in.
Yeah.
Those people in our industry, it's interesting. I mean, as busy as you are, and I find that the biggest producers always make time for their community. And it says a lot about a person and why you're successful, in my opinion.
Thank you. Well, I think it's important. Yeah. As agents, we, we're in the community from all levels, from selling low,
It's true.
low income housing to, luxury homes.
I mean, we don't just sit around looking for the $20 million listing. I mean, that's nice, but they're rare. Mostly we do the bread and butter work, and it's everyday work.
Yeah. And those people need us just as much as the people.
Everybody needs our help. It's a great career and a difficult one, but thank you so much.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for joining us.
Sure. It's my
It's great to hear your perspective and learn from you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.